everyone, welcome back to the Me First Fitness exercise classes that we're offering virtually for you. Today we're going to do yoga, and our yoga class today will be a yin class. So I've brought a few props that I'd like you to have on hand for the class. One is a block, which will come in handy for a few of our yin postures, and also a strap. If you have a strap or a scarf, works really well for that as well. If you don't have yoga blocks, don't worry. Bring a stack of books or something like that that you can just rest on if you need a little bit of support in any of the postures that we're doing. We're going to just jump right into our practice. So come seated into the center of your mat and find your comfortable cross-legged position. So it could be just a loose cross-legged on the mat. You could stack your legs in full Siddhasana. You could have your legs outstretched. Maybe one leg is outstretched and one's bent. Find the one that's going to work very best for you, and somewhere where you can sit really relaxed and comfortable and you're not straining to stay in that position. Do a little lean forward. Pull the fleshy bits behind and make sure you're anchored onto those sits bones. Let your shoulders float up. Draw those shoulder blades together and just slide them down your back. Take your breath all the way up. Hands together in prayer, slowly lowering down into that heart center, and then release the back of your hands onto your lap with your fingers just gently curled in relaxation. Close down your eyes. Sit long and tall through that spine, lifted through the heart, reaching through the crown, shoulders softening away from your ears, and connect with that breath. Feel it flow in through the nostrils, down the back of the throat. Feel a gentle rise and fall through the chest as you inhale and exhale. And throughout our class today, we're really going to connect with that breath in our yin postures, meaningfully include our breath in the movements and in the holds. And what we'll be doing in our class today is moving gently into postures that we're going to hold to find softness, to find stillness, and to release those muscles and joints. Flutter those eyes to open. Extend those legs out in front. Sitting right up onto those sits bones again. Draw your toes back towards you. Gently press out through the heels. Land those hands right beside your hips. And as you reach long through the crown of your head, soften those shoulders away from your ears. Lift through the lower back and lift through the heart. Sitting long, sitting tall, sitting strong into that staff pose. And then I'm going to ask you to slide that left foot in and tuck it right into that right knee. Inhale those arms up and overhead and gently fold over that extended leg, tucking the chin and lowering your head. Take a breath here. Exhale and soften. Inhale and unfold, coming all the way up. Planting that left foot onto the mat. Tuck your right foot in towards the back of your thigh, and with your strap or with your hands, reach for that instep and pull your knee right into your chest. Lift through the lower back, reach long through the spine, and on your inhale, lift that leg. And when you exhale, lower it back down. Inhale here to lift, and exhale to lower. This time we're going to lift and hold it right there, either with the strap or with your hands. Gently lifting through the lower back and drawing that leg closer. Take your right hand to support the leg, your left hand to hold on to the instep, or continue to hold on to your strap. We're going to sweep that leg to the side, just opening it up, drawing the toes back, lengthening through the back of the leg. Your right hand comes out in front and you'll sweep your arm and your gaze around to the side, twisting through the torso, opening through the heart. And then back to center, both hands onto that leg. Point your toe, lift through the lower back and draw that leg in. Nicely done. You're going to extend that right down onto the mat, bringing that right foot to tuck it by your knee, lifting through the lower back. Inhale up. On your exhale, just fold out over that leg. Nicely done. Hold here for a breath in, reaching your crown towards your foot. Exhale and soften. As you inhale, start to unfold. You're coming all the way up. You're going to plant that right heel on the floor, holding onto the instep with a strap or with your hands, whichever is best available to you. Draw that knee in, lift through the lower back. Inhale as you lift that leg and exhale to lower. Inhale to lift. exhale to lower. One more time here. Inhale and hold right there. Either continuing to hold onto your strap or taking the hand to the back of your leg, reach for the instep and sweep that leg to the side. Draw back through the toes. Feel the length through the back of your leg. Lift through the lower back. Reach that arm in front. Your gaze and the arm sweeps to the side, opening through the heart and twisting through the torso. And back to center. We're going to take both hands onto the leg, pointing the toes, or continuing with your strap, lift through the lower back and draw that leg a little bit closer. Nicely done, releasing all the way down. Roll onto all fours, positioning into the center of your mat. Spread your fingers wide, bring those shoulders right over top of your wrists. Check that your knees are under your hips, and on an inhale, lift your heart, lift your chin, and lift your tailbone. Exhale, draw the belly in, round through the spine into cat. Inhaling through to cow as the heart space opens, and exhale to cat. Use these first few rounds of cat-cow to really establish that match between breath and movement. So slowly, as you breathe in and as you breathe out, move through these transitions. Inhale here, lifting the heart, lifting the gaze. Exhale, draw the belly in, round through the spine, and sink your hips right back into your heels. On the inhale, glide forward, push away from the mat, and lift back into cow. Exhale to draw the belly in, round through the spine, and sink those hips back. Inhale again, coming forward. Exhale back. And this time when you land on those heels, walk your fingers forward, lengthening through the arms. Inhale, forward, cow. And as you exhale, turn your toes under and lift to downward facing dog. We're going to inhale here to bring those knees to the mat. Let the hips fall, the elbows lock, and the heart space open between your hands. Exhale back to child's pose. Inhale forward. Exhale, round and lift, downward facing dog. Inhale, knees to the mat, lock the elbows, drop the hips, and open that heart space. Exhale to child's pose. One more time here. Inhale, low and lift, cow. Exhale, turn the toes under, downward facing dog. And from your downward facing dog, look between your hands. Step that left foot to the outside edge of your mat. Let that back knee drop to the mat, release the top of your foot, and let your hip sink forward. Coming into lizard pose, we're going to offer a few variations here. So you can stay here on your hands, knee tucked in close to the shoulder, hip driving forward to open up through those hip flexors. But for 3 minutes that we want to hold this posture, it might be a little bit much for your wrists. So I want to offer this option of bringing over a block or a book, or maybe even a stack of books, and resting elbows down onto the block. And if you're able to come into this lower version of our lizard or dragon pose, you can let that knee drop off to the side and really soften through those hips, really sinking into the posture. Draw your belly in just a little bit and glide your rib cage down, maintaining that engagement through the core as you hold the posture. And with every inhale, lengthen through the top of your head, feel your shoulders draw away from your ears. And when you exhale, find softness through those hips. Long, gentle inhale and exhale. Nicely done. Belly draws in to keep engagement through that core. Softening that knee off to the side, finding length through the inner thigh adductors. And as that hip falls forward, really open through those hip flexors. Turning the toes under on that back foot. Bring your hands back onto the mat and walk that left foot in. Place placing your right hand in the center of the mat, sweeping that arm up towards the ceiling and drawing your shoulder towards the knee. Lengthen and extend through those fingertips. Soften that hip forward. Release that hand all the way down. It can land on the outside of your foot. The toes turn under behind. Step right back into that downward facing dog. And in the downward facing dog, do a little pedal through as one knee bends, the other knee sinks into, or the other heel rather, sinks down into the mat. Nicely done. Then lift up on both toes, sink down through both heels, bring your gaze between your hands, and step that right foot forward, lowering that back knee down onto the mat. Again, your options here to hold here with your hands on the floor and that knee tucked in close. Or you can bring your block over. And when your block comes over, your elbows can lower right down onto the mat. Nicely done. You're lengthening through the top of your head. You're softening those shoulders away from your ears. And if it's in your practice, roll to the side of your foot and let that knee drop off to the side. Long, steady breaths, reaching through the crown on the inhale, softening through the hip as you exhale. Keeping the shoulders soft and away from the ears. Finding that engagement through your core by drawing the belly in and gliding the rib cage down. The engagement here through the core is subtle. It's not a huge contraction there, just enough to hold that engagement, to keep that core involved in the posture. Long through the spine and soft through the hips. Inhale and exhale. Got about 5 more breaths here. So just keep remembering that that exhale is an opportunity to let that hip just sink a little bit deeper. Let that knee fall open a little bit wider. And if you did come down to elbows and you are using a block, come to your hands and just slide that block out of the way for now. We're going to walk that right foot in. Place your left hand in the center of the mat and sweep that right arm up towards the ceiling. We're going to draw that shoulder towards the knee, bringing that beautiful twist in through the torso, lifting and opening through that heart space, finding balance in this twisted posture. On a breath in, bring that hand down. It can stay right on the outside of your foot. Turn the toes under on that back leg and lift one more time into that downward facing dog, letting those heels sink down towards the mat. Offer a little pedal through, a little release for those hips, for those hip flexors especially, right at the front of your hip, at the top of your thigh. And then lift up onto your toes, draw your belly in and rock forward to a plank. Find your straight line, shoulders, hips, and heels. Take a breath here, and when you exhale, lift the hips and sink the chest back towards the legs, downward dog. Inhale to lift to the toes, rock forward to plank. Exhale, lift through the hips, sink back, heels to the mat. Inhale to lift and rock forward. Find that straight line, shoulders, hips, and heels. Exhale as you lift through the hips and sink back. Downward facing dog. Inhale to come forward. Exhale One more time. Inhale. And we're going to hold right here in that plank. Step your right foot to the center of your mat. Lift your left leg off the mat and come all the way up into a three-legged dog. And in your three-legged dog, bend that knee, lift your knee towards the ceiling, really opening through that hip space, anchoring through the hands, keeping equal weight on both hands so that that rotation comes through the hip and not through the shoulders. On an inhale, straighten that leg, three-legged dog. And on an exhale, bend the knee and bring it forward, tucking it right behind your wrist. Lower that back leg down onto the mat. Starting our pigeon on tented fingers. So we want to push away from the floor, allowing the heart space to open, soften through the hips to sink down into the mat. If this version of pigeon doesn't work for you because of knee or hip issues, I invite you to roll to a seated position, place your ankle on your knee, and move into your knee, pushing from behind to find that seated pigeon. Option for you to hold that while we go through this version of reclining pigeon. Fingertips are tented. Every inhale allows you to open the heart space, soften the shoulders, and lengthen through the crown. And on the exhale, soften those hips and let them just sink right down into the mat. Inhale to lift. And exhale to soften. Nicely done. When you lift, really push away from the mat, allowing the heart to lift. And when you exhale, really soften through those hips and allow them to sink right down into that mat. One more breath here. And exhale. Nicely done. We're going to come down onto our elbows. And what you want to do here is make sure that once you've come to your elbows, that your hips didn't shift from one side to the other. You don't want to be leaning onto the side. So a couple of options there. You can put a folded towel or a pillow under this side if it tends to fall over to the side. Or you can just come back up to that lifted pigeon where your tented fingers allow you to stay lifted and level. Our shoulders pull away from the ears and our crown reaches towards the ceiling, lengthening through the spine as we soften those hips even further down into the mat. Your neck is going to stay neutral, so your gaze is just off the end of your mat. Lengthening through the spine on the inhale, softening through the hips on your exhale. If it's in your practice, take a little step forward with your hands and lower your forehead down, either to the mat, to stacked hands, to stacked fists, or even bring over a block and rest your forehead on the block. When you come into your full extension, full version of reclining pigeon, you want to make sure that your shoulders, your upper back, and your neck stay really relaxed and soft. You'll feel tension through the hips, and that's what you're supposed to feel. Breathe into that resistance. Visualize the lengthening and the softening of those muscles as you hold pigeon. Coming up out of pigeon, come right up onto your hands and walk them back. Spread your fingers wide, turn the toes under on that back foot, and lift once again to your downward facing dog. Allow the heels to sink and the tailbone to lift. Soften through the neck and let the head just hang between your arms. The shoulders gently draw away from the ears as the chest sinks back towards the thighs. And then lifting onto your toes, inhale into that plank position. Find your straight line, shoulders, hips, and heels. Step your left foot to the center of the mat. Lift your right leg and then push away from the mat to come into that three-legged dog. We're going to bend that lifted knee, lift it towards the ceiling, opening through the hip. Equal pressure on your hands so the twist comes from the rib cage and the pelvis and not from the shoulders. On an inhale, straighten that leg. And when you exhale, come right down in to your pigeon. Starting our pigeon on tented fingers, allowing our hips to sink down into the mat. Remembering that if it doesn't work well for your knee, and it might be different from one knee to the other, but if this posture really, really is uncomfortable for you, we never want to challenge the joints. We challenge the muscles, but the joints should feel comfortable in these postures. So if it is uncomfortable, go to that seated pigeon and carry through in that posture for the rest of this set of 3 minutes. But if you're comfortable here in pigeon, push away from the mat with those tented fingers. Soften down through the hips and open through that heart space. Long, steady, and full inhales. Complete exhales. Nicely done. Pushing away from that floor as you inhale, softening into the floor as you exhale. Remember that option if you feel like you're kind of sinking off to the side, just slide a pillow, a folded towel, maybe even a block would be appropriate. Something that's going to keep you lifted and level as we hold this posture. Soft through the shoulders, lifted through the heart. Lower down to your elbows. And once you've come down to your elbows, make sure that you stayed lifted and level. You didn't roll to one side, because you can always go back to your hands if lowering down into the mat causes you to kind of lose that lifted feeling in your pigeon pose. Draw your shoulders down, lengthen through the crown as you inhale, and when you exhale, feel that softness through your hips as they just melt into the mat. Be aware of the tension and where that tension is through the hips. We're going to lower down to the mat. So again, you can rest on a block, you can stack your fists, your hands, or support your head all the way down onto the mat. Remember, in this pigeon pose, our head needs to be supported. You don't want your head just hanging there because it's too much strain on your neck. We really want the neck, the shoulders, the upper back to soften and relax, holding tension through the hips and allowing that tension to release through breath. So with every exhale, identify where you're holding the tension and breathe into that spot. Visualize the softening and the lengthening of those muscles that are holding this tension, and breathe. We're going to walk our hands back, coming out of our pigeon, spreading those fingers wide, digging in through those fingertips. Turn your toes under and lift back up to your downward facing dog. And in your downward facing dog, soften through the neck and let the head hang. Reach long through the crown, draw the shoulders back. Soften the chest towards the thighs. Lift through the tailbone and let those heels just sink down into the mat. Lift your gaze up between your hands and take a step forward with your left foot. Push off the right foot and step those feet side by side. With soft knees, inhale and sweep your arms all the way up and overhead. On the exhale, swan dive forward, brushing the floor with your fingers. Inhale onto your shins with a halfway lift. And when you exhale, just fold out over those legs. The inhale brings our feet to the back of the mat again into your downward facing dog. And when you inhale, lift to your toes, rock forward to bring those shoulders right over your wrists. And either from your knees or from your toes, tuck your elbows and lower down to hover just off the floor. Inhale through. We're coming right through to that upward facing dog, opening that heart space. And on your exhale, push away from the floor, roll through your toes, coming back to your downward facing dog. Bringing those knees down onto the mat, let your hips fall forward, lock out your elbows, open your heart space between your hands. And then cross the ankles and sit back. We're going to move forward on the mat because we want to bring our feet right to the end. And before we lay down onto the mat, I want you to take either your scarf or your strap, and we're going to use this for our next posture. So just keep it right by your side there. Going down into our reclining position to move into the next series, inhale those arms right out in front. And on your exhale, draw the belly in, curl the tailbone under, control through that flat bone of your pelvis. Take a breath when you need it. When you feel that first vertebrae, touch down one at a time as the spine unfolds into the mat. The arms, I'm just going to come back and grab my strap. The arms come right down onto the floor, the head rests down, and the neck relaxes. Nicely done. We're going to draw those knees in and take the strap and wrap them around the insteps of your feet, lifting those feet up towards the ceiling. With your hands on either side of the strap, press through the heels and draw the toes down. We're going to gently draw those legs towards us. Really feeling that length up the back of our legs. And just gently, gently bringing the legs closer with every exhale. Really lifting through the heels. Feeling that tailbone lifting away from the floor as the legs draw forward. Sinking that weight into the lower back and feeling the sacrum, that flat bone of the pelvis, lift right up off the floor. Pressing through the heels and drawing down through the toes. Using your breath. Using the exhale as a softening. Inhale to reach through those heels. We're going to release the right leg and lower it all the way down to the mat. Let it rest right onto the mat. Left hand goes as far up that strap as you can reach, and right arm extends out onto the floor. We're going to open that leg to the side, keeping those hips nice and level, turning your gaze towards that right hand, and anchoring your shoulders into the mat. Continuing to press out through the heel and draw back through the toes, finding length through the inner thigh, the hamstring, and the calves. And that right leg that extends out and rests on the mat, draw those toes back too. Keep that leg engaged and activated as we open up through that left side. Lifting that leg all the way up, we're going to switch to the other hand and slowly roll right onto our right side, extending that left arm out. Supporting the leg with the tension on the strap, anchoring the shoulders down into the mat, press through the heel, draw back through the toes. Soften through that medial glute and allow that leg to reach out to the side. If your shoulders came off the floor, come back into that reclining position and then start again in your roll to the side. Beautiful opening through that medial glute. A little bit of stretch through those abductors on your outer thigh. Slowly that leg comes up, but don't use the strap. Release your hand and come all the way up. Lifting that right foot, tuck it back into your strap. With both hands on the straps, gently start to draw those legs forward. Feeling your tailbone lift away from the floor. Using every exhale as a softening through the hips as the legs come a little closer. Inhaling to press through the heels and draw down through the toes, lengthening through the backs of your legs. Feel the sacrum peel away from the floor, that lower back weighted into the mat. as the legs continue to gently and slowly draw forward. This is a beautiful practice to do later in the day if you just need some peace and some relaxation. A great little pick-me-up in the middle of the day if you just need to walk away from your desk and find some calmness. And release, just let the legs come back over the hips. We're going to release that left foot and lower it all the way down onto the mat. Slide your right hand as far as you can up that strap and slowly start to let that leg fall to the side. Keeping your hips level, your sacrum, that flat bone, equally weighted onto the floor. Shoulders stay engaged onto the mat. Extend out that left arm and turn your gaze to the left as you open up through that right leg. And when that posture feels complete for you, come right into your Shavasana. Spread your legs long and wide. Rest your arms comfortably at your side. And finish off your practice as long as you like in Shavasana. Make it complete for you and enjoy the rest of your day. Namaste.